And we're back with another episode of NBA Observations. It's Gerald Glassford. Thanks so much again for joining us. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure you like and subscribe today to get the latest notifications on when you can go ahead and catch the latest NBA observations from us as well. And also, if you're listening to this, please go ahead and make sure you hit us that 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. Well, the Eastern and Western Championship, the conference finals continues on, and we're getting closer to a resolution on one, and we're right back at square one on the other. And here today to go ahead and discuss all that's going on with those teams and those conference finals. Plus, we decided to go ahead and start our journey into looking at two different NBA teams in going in right now completely different directions. Good man indeed. You got to go ahead and hit him up today at the New Century Press, and also as well, of course, at the Suave Report. It is Calif Poncy. Calif, great to have you back, my friend.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back, and we've got plenty here to talk about. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. I mean, I thought last night was pretty an interesting game, because I think in one aspect, like, I thought OKC played about as bad as they could. The shooting percentages will reflect that, but I also thought that it's not like San Antonio played out of their mind and they were up by 20 the whole game. And I think it really just depicts this larger issue that is with these injuries for the Thunder, which is, if they're, now that they've realized what the Lakers did, which is you can throw these super aggressive two at SGA, but it's really not the way to go about it. Like, you just want to make him do it, especially when you have defenders level of the Spurs, kind of make him beat you one-on-one. And then they're like, now the auxiliary guys who are going to help him out just really aren't there. Like, you're really relying on a Jared McCain, or like Aaron Wiggins played a lot last night. So really, it's going to be an uphill battle, I think, for OKC to win the series. Not because I don't think they're the better team when healthy, because I think they are. But these injuries don't look like ones that guys are going to come back from, to me. And I just don't think that with how dominant San Antonio can be defensively, OKC basically needs out-of-body role player performances to win. And we saw that in game 3, so it's possible. But how many times can you really rely on that? So that's kind of where I'm at with that one.
I'll just say this. Again, I know that the fan base out there, the Twitter sphere, the social media sphere is observing this closely and observing every foul closely and whatnot, as far as the attention it has deserved on the part of OKC. But if you take that aside, it has still been a very competitive series. I've enjoyed watching it. I'm enjoying watching when Victor Wembanyama steps up to the plate and they realize that, hey, they've got the 7'5", 7'6", 7, whatever he is, type of individual, and he's aggressive, and they keep feeding him the ball, plus a backcourt to supplement him of young superstars on the rise in Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper. Again, I see a pathway like I did in game 1 for one day moving off of De'Aaron Fox, but right now they do need his steadiness. Last night, what we saw was a great example. If you keep the turnovers low, you restrict what Oklahoma City does. And in fact, they turned it on its head, and actually Oklahoma City, I guess, from what memory serves, was 20 turnovers on their part as well. So they were the ones providing the sloppy ball, and it fed right into what San Antonio was doing. They gained the momentum and never looked back. But it's the I guess the I don't want to say arrogance of OKC, the confidence OKC has, because they didn't seem concerned that they lost by 20 some last night. They were joking and jovial at the end of the game, and they've done this. They did this to the Lakers, and I don't know if I'm on San Antonio, I'm using that as bulletin board material, because they need all the bulletin board material, because they still have 2 games on the road, and they have to go ahead and at least win one of those in order to go ahead and advance to the NBA finals.
Yeah, I mean OKC yesterday. I mean, with it, like I thought Wemby kind of did like a walk off clap thing after Game 3. We saw OKC do this last year against Denver, where the famous Shea's kind of smiling after they lost in Denver moment that has gone quite
The
viral.
Minnesota one too, where Minnesota beat them handily, and they seemed very jovial, like it didn't even bother, which is fine,
Yeah,
for them. But it gives
for sure.
for everybody else that you could take it two ways. You could take it two ways. If you're OKC, you're not bothered by it. That's what you want to go ahead and do. But it hasn't spoiled or it hasn't foiled OKC yet. So, I guess it's San Antonio again. They have to go and figure out a way to beat OKC on the road one more time in order to get this series done. So, if I am OKC, maybe I would be a little bit more confident heading into the final 3 games of this series.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just tough with the injuries to Mitchell and Williams. Like we saw in Game 3, like McCain played great, and so he really provided that spark as like another creator for OKC. Where he was pretty bad yesterday. Wiggins is just not really looking like he's going to be much of anything in this series. Caruso was due to have a pretty bad game, and he did. We haven't had a Lou Dort game yet. I guess OKC can say that. Like we had, I mean, maybe he'll have a game where he makes 3 to 5 3-pointers, but maybe not. And so without these two, like it's just really all on SGA, which he can handle. But I don't know if one man can really deal with this San Antonio, really this defensive duo of Castle, who, to all fairness, because they're letting Hartenstein rough up Wemby pretty good too. But like they're what I think the physicality has really gone both ways this series, in my opinion. I think it's just really physical. Both teams are fouling a lot, if you want to call fouls on everything. Like, yeah, Wemby's kind of getting the center treatment, as you saw in LA, like you're with Shaq. Like when you're so physical, and they're different, right? Shaq was big and powerful and 7 foot, and Wemby is taller and skinnier, but he's like, God knows how tall, 7'5", 7'7", whatever you want to say. So I think really their offensive impacts are pretty similar when they want to be. Now Wemby falls in love with his jumper sometimes and goes outside, but like we saw in Game 1 when he was so great, and obviously the defining shot of that game was a 3-pointer, but really why he was so dominant is if you look at his shot chart that game, like 15 of his however many makes were dunks, and then he had one outside the paint, and it was a 30-foot three. So I mean, so Wemby's kind of getting the traditional dominant center deal of like you kind of get banged up in the playoffs down low. That's just kind of the give and take for being big and dominant. And then SGA is getting like really everything you can handle for a perimeter oriented player. Off ball, they're hugging on him. They're really physical on ball. They're really physical around screens. And I think all that's fine as long as you call it evenly both ways. Like I think, and in my opinion, largely have so far. Like I think it's been, both sides have been really physical. And I just think with SG, and now that, like I said earlier, like they've learned the same lesson the Lakers did, which was you can aggressively send two at Shea, and you're going to not shut him down, but quiet him down. But he's also going to get double-digit assists, and he's going to diagnose quickly. And now they've really, last game, they still threw some doubles at him, but not nearly as much. And they're saying, okay, everybody else go beat us one-on-one. And there's just not really anyone left on OKC that I think can do that on a consistent basis. So if I was San Antonio, I'd feel pretty good. I think last year, the injury gods really smiled upon OKC, right? With Aaron Gordon thing, the Halliburton thing, like they really got their run of luck and injuries. And now this year, they're still around half a round and another full round to go for San Antonio, but between Anthony Edwards and now Jalen Williams. And I'm not going to act like AJ Mitchell's some giant deal because he was playing pretty poorly in this series. But from an OKC perspective, he is just another guy who can handle, which now, despite the depth of this team, they're really starting to run pretty low on, like, this is their number 2 and number 3 creators that are now probably out for the series. So, I mean, I think it's been an interesting series. I think if both teams would have been fully healthy, it would have been a really interesting tactical series to see who's going to do what, how long do you keep throwing those doubles at Shea. But now it's just, I think basically it's like, okay, send Castle at Shea. They're going to let him be really physical, which again is fine with me. And okay, McCain or Caruso or whoever you want, like now you're not getting as many wide open threes. Granted, OKC did miss a lot of wide open threes yesterday, but it's not as much of a walk in the park. Now you at least have someone guarding you. And I don't know how OKC, barring one of these guys comes back, can really shake that. And I just think that I'd be feeling pretty good if I was San Antonio.
Well, with San Antonio, they have to have a premier game from Victor Wembanyama. He goes out and he just gets like a 22 point game. It seems like that's not enough because they just don't have enough support around him consistently to go ahead and get it done. He needs to have those stellar games, though. So, in fact, when they win, you've seen two great performances as far as scoring wise from Victor Wembanyama. When you haven't, they have two losses to show for it. So Victor has to show up. An aggressive Victor has to be there, and San Antonio needs to do what it can to try and force feed Victor on the inside because he is still wreaking a lot of havoc in there when he does go inside. So that I think is the key going forward in the series is how aggressive Victor Wembanyama will be in order to go ahead and get this done. Uh, I know that the odds are still lying in OKC. I'm assuming one of those two, at least one of those two on OKC will come back in time. In fact, I think by the time if it does go seven, I think both will come back. So again, I just think at this point in time, Victor has to be aggressive. If he's not aggressive enough, or they figure out a way to slow him down enough, be physical enough with him, then you have a problem with San Antonio that they may not be able to overcome.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, with both teams having two and OKC having that game seven at home, that's like the ultimate trump card. That if you OKC, I think has to win tomorrow, right? Like that's it, you can't go into San Antonio with because I'm just my read on it, and I could be wrong. It like the way they're reporting the Jalen Williams thing, they're making it sound like he could come back any day now. I just don't. I would be pretty surprised just knowing how the Thunder operate, knowing that it's been this recurring hamstring thing over and over again, knowing that they're still so young. And like this isn't an Aaron Gordon situation last year where it's like this we have to do it now. We only have so many chances left. Like OKC can realistically look themselves in the mirror and say, do we really want to potentially damage Jalen Williams? And then we saw Aaron Gordon this year, like he can't stay on the court anymore. So do we really want to risk injuring Jalen Williams severely long term any more than we did last year with him playing through his wrist injury? When we have such a long runway, and it's hard. It's a hard calculation, right? Because you never want to have a chance to win a championship and say, well, there's always next year, because that's not how it works, right? We see like OKC this whole year, it seems like they're going to not waltz because we all saw San Antonio coming, but be this team that is probably going to be a pretty substantial favorite for the championship. And then now we get to the playoffs. It's like, well, they'll have Jalen Williams back, and they really haven't. They've had Jalen Williams for 3 games or 3 games and a quarter. And so it's hard. It's a hard calculation, but with it being a soft tissue thing, with it being recurring, I really don't think he's going to come back, even if it is a game 7. I could be. I mean, I don't know, right? I could be wrong, but I just don't. The way that it all seems like they're being very OKC-ish about it. They're being very vague and well, it's hamstring soreness. It's not a strain, and I just don't really buy it. I think it's probably another strain, and these calf strains with Mitchell, man, I don't know. Like we've seen how teams operate with calf strains, and I just honestly feel like it's an uphill battle for either one of those guys to come back and play in this series. And I think Jalen Williams would probably be back for if they were to make the finals. But OKC really needs to. Their role players have to play well tomorrow, because I don't think either one of them would be back tomorrow. I would be really surprised if either of them played tomorrow. There's a chance, I think, with Jalen Williams for Game 7, but not tomorrow. And I think AJ Mitchell's probably just out for the series. Their role players need to step up as they have in games 1, 2, and 3 in this series, and they need to play well tomorrow at home and get a win, because putting all that pressure on an SGA can handle it, but he can really we've seen the quality of shots he's getting with how teams are playing him. They're just really hard shots, and when you don't have any outlet, because in the Lakers series we saw like he was inefficient, but he really was so good at playmaking because Chet Holmgren was so dominant in that series and really got whatever he wanted. This series, it's the opposite, where Chet Holmgren, I mean, you might as well have like Zaza Pachulia out there. Like they're not really all that different, right? Like he's just, for whatever reason, this matchup with Wemby, it really just not only like it's okay if a player like Chet is a little bit shut down low by Wemby. He does that to everyone, but it seems like psychologically he's just like out of these games in a way that he's not. And so you're essentially down in terms of like your aggressiveness pecking order. Like SGA is always 1, but then you're down really your number 2, 3, and 4 aggressive guys in terms of looking for baskets, because Holmgren has just been to nothing this whole series. So it's tough. I really, really do think that despite maybe the odds being in OKC's favor because they have the 2 games at home, I just think with the health and they really need, with how it's turned out, they really needed to win that game one where they were the worst team, and then they nearly stole it, and then Wemby had his crazy 30-footer to steal it back. They really needed that game because now it's looking like, I just don't know how, with OKC's injury situation, I really don't watch and feel good or know how they can take 2 or 3 against a team that is just so much healthier. Because I think Harper looks fine. Like we were worried about him after game 3, I think, or game 2 maybe.
The adductor, I think, was what it came
yeah,
out to be.
he got hurt in game 2. I think the adductor, and he looks completely fine. Fox looks good on that ankle. And so San Antonio's just kind of throwing their fastball, and OKC just doesn't really have it in there. They're going to have to really kind of bullpen game their way to a series win here. And I mean, they have SGA, but he's just getting so much sent at him, and he has no offensive outlet if Caruso or McCain aren't playing well. And when you become in a situation where you need Alex Caruso to be reliable to make shots, it's just pretty problematic. Like, he can be an awesome surprise like game 1 or game 2 or game 3. Like, he played really well offensively in all those, but that honestly probably means like he's just due to have a couple stinkers. And I think he had 0 points yesterday. Like, he had one, but they're just in a tough spot with who they're relying on other than SGA, and with how aggressive, physical, everything San Antonio is defensively, what they were allowing San Antonio to kind of, I thought, for all the complaints that there were about Hartenstein and Wembanyama in game 2 that I think are completely fine if you're outside of the OKC sphere, like, I get why people were so upset about it. I thought yesterday was really, really, really physical on SGA, frankly, and I know everyone's going to point to the one foul he got with Fox where he's in his landing spot, and everyone's mad about that one, but there's a reason that's the only clip that anyone will show from that game in terms of trying to maybe push this narrative about OKC, because I thought really they were really, really physical with SGA off ball, and he just didn't. I thought that San Antonio won that game free throw advantage wise by, I want to say, maybe 13 or something like that. And again, I think both teams have been really pretty equally physical in this. This isn't a Suns thing or a Lakers thing where OKC is just a tier above those teams in terms of physicality. I think San Antonio, especially Castle, is just right there in terms of the physicality that they're doing against OKC. And it just seems like yesterday, maybe I thought was, now no one's going to want to hear the OKC representative complaining about officiating. I understand the spot we're in, but, and I'm not, because like I said, I think in the grand scheme of the series, I think it's been pretty even, but I just thought that yesterday, they were really physical with Shea, and again, that's totally fine, but just no matter who it's for, if it's Hartenstein mugging Wemby, if it's Castle mugging Shea, like, just call it evenly for both sides. I think that's really what everybody who is actually just watching the series to watch basketball would want. And so I would expect, maybe, I thought there was some overcorrective from the Wemby Hartenstein's thing. I imagine there'll maybe be some overcorrecting, and we'll see SGA get some of those home free throw calls tomorrow. And I think tomorrow is really the series with these injuries, honestly. Like, if OKC can't win at home, I just don't know how they go into San Antonio and get a win, unless you really, you're just going to, if you get a second awesome role player game with Jalen Williams and Caruso and McCain all playing well in game 6 in San Antonio, maybe. But just on average, on the mean, I just think that they have to win that game at home tomorrow, or they're probably done, personally.
I can't say I can give you any sympathy for OKC because I can't really.
No
one. You build up this
will.
cachet for over a course of a period. While.
I get it. I'm just saying, I just want to kind of represent the counter, like, because it's just a different it's just a different thing, right? Like, when people see Wemby get, again, mugged. Like, I'm not denying what was happening. Like, I saw, I'm just watching the game, and everyone wants to cause a fuss about it, and that's fine, and I get it. And OKC has earned all these things that they have, right? Like, they do flop all over the place, and they do play really physical, and they do some borderline dirty stuff. Like, they do all this stuff, right? There's no denying any of that. But it's just, whenever it kind of goes the other way, it just, no one wants to talk about it, because that cachet that they've built, and everyone's like, well, good, they deserve it, or whatever, right? Like, that's just kind of how it goes. But just watching it, like, as objectively as I can, like, San Antonio was really physical yesterday, and I think if a lot of those things would have been going, maybe Dort was shoving Harper instead of Castle shoving Aaron Wiggins, or whatever happened that they didn't call foul on, I just think it probably would have gone, like, someone would have made like $4,000 on a Twitter post about it, and B, it would have been a big deal, and it just isn't. And again, that's fine, and that's kind of OKC's place in the league right now. They're the villain; everyone hates them. They're also the power that everyone wants to see go down, whatever. But I just wanted to say, if we're gonna rightfully talk about how physical we were, or OKC was with Wemby in game 2, I just think that maybe we should not. And it wasn't the same, and I get it because it was not on the rebounds. It's not the arm pulling because Wemby has his gangly arms, whatever, right? But let's just call it how we see it. That's all I'm asking for. So when OKC has these great free throw games or great officiating games where they're in their favor, which they've gotten in these playoffs, that we can call it as it is, absolutely. But when it maybe is a little bit, and I don't think yesterday was officiating malpractice or anything by any means, not at all. But they were really physical, and I think if it would have gone the other way with some of the stuff that San Antonio did, it probably would have been a big deal, and it's just kind of under discussed. So we'll see if Shea maybe, because OKC is going to be sending in those tapes to the league office just like San Antonio was, I'm sure. So we'll see maybe if SGA has a 14-15 free throw game tomorrow with the home crowd, with the at home, a lot of on-ball possessions for him, I imagine, where they're going to be really physical with him. I'd expect maybe a 4, 5, 6 foul game from Castle, just because this stuff is usually pretty predictable, right? Like, it's on the road. The crowd isn't going to freak out. The referees don't feel that pressure from the crowd. They let some stuff go. Then they go away, and then all of a sudden in game 3, both teams shoot 40 free throws because they overcorrect all the physicality. And now I think next game we'll probably see another one like that, where maybe we get a lot of free throws from SGA, because he should be shooting a lot of free throws based on how he's been defended in the series.
But really, when it comes down to it, a lot of your success in OKC comes down to the sheer depth and talent that you guys have on that team. Let's put the fouling aside, because I don't think it makes a big enough mark on both sides as far as it's concerned. When OKC has won, it has just, as LeBron put it best, out talented the other team, whether it's San Antonio, the Lakers, what have you. When they have lost, they have just not found ways to go ahead and generate that kind of offense that they needed. You're right; they should have taken game 1, but Wemby, you know what? He changes the dynamic when he wants to, and with a guy like that, and I think the drive that he has on most occasions, it's just awesome to see an individual that can do so many different things. And Chet has no answer for him. Hartenstein has only some in this physicality, but yes, it's just clear that Chet is probably the worst individual for OKC to throw up against Wemby, because of the bone that Wemby has to pick on with Chet. And it seems like that there is a vendetta every single time that those two are even close to facing each other one-on-one.
Yeah, honestly, I think Chet does a halfway decent job one-on-one, like the stats say that, but just in terms of the matchup, and that's Chet on defense. When Chet's on offense, it's a non-starter. Like, if they're one-on-one, like, Chet's just not scoring, and he has this really slow, like, the problems with Chet in this series are he can't get inside, and because what he's done really well all season is because teams will put their smalls on him because he's not the most physical guy. He'll still take him inside, and he'll do his little turnaround mid-range that he's pretty efficient on. He's pretty good at it. But now with Wemby always lurking, that's just kind of been completely eliminated for him. And the biggest problem I've always had with Chet, in terms of why I think everyone's super high on him, and I am too. I mean, I think he's a one of the better defenders we've seen in a while. He just is in the league at the same time as Wemby, which is unfortunate for everybody in these next 10 years or so on that end of the floor. And I think he's a interesting, good offensive player, but he just does not have the quick trigger 3. And he's a good 3-point shooter. Like, when he lets it fly, he's a pretty good shooter. And he just doesn't have that. And in this series, you need it, because you're not going to get anything inside. That's just not, no one really is, other than maybe McCain, because he's crazy and goes in there and whatever. Like, and when I say McCain, he made like a layup against Wemby. It's not like he's scoring in the paint, right? And so this is really the problem with this matchup for OKC, and why I think that unless they'll do some roster reshuffling this summer. I don't think we'll see major moves like these. Should they trade for Giannis? Like, I don't feel like that's likely to happen. But the problem with OKC against San Antonio, even when they're healthy, is really they just don't have the consistent shooters that I think you need to beat this team. And that's why I think New York's an interesting matchup if the Spurs do go on to win. Like, I think the Spurs will win that series, but it's an interesting matchup because New York has all these good shooters that they can surround, they can just flood the floor with, as compared to OKC, where if McCain's off and Joe's off, which he just always is in the playoffs, they're really like, who are you looking at to just go out there and like you feel good when he shoots it? Because Chet
How
has
often
this.
that will Alex Caruso hit 8 threes?
Yes, exactly. Like you need Crusoe and Wallace and Dort and all these guys can make threes. Like eight's a lot, but if you see if Crusoe has a 4-5-3 game, it's not shocking. Like he's that, he can do that. Same with Dort, same with Wallace. But they also are all very capable of having 0 3-point games. And they just don't, I think, have the quality of shooters on the roster right now that they're going to need to compete with this team. Because I think OKC can get a little bit better still. Like they're still very young. All their role players are young other than Caruso. Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, you imagine he'll get a little bit better. It's kind of hard to imagine SGA getting much better than he is, but the greats always seem to find a way to get a little bit better. But when you look across the aisle and you see San Antonio, where Wemby's only going to get better for the next 5 years, Harper, we've seen these flashes of Harper this postseason where he looks like he's already like an all-star, all-NBA type guy. That's going to become more consistent. Castle's going to figure out how to be lower turnover, maybe reel in that aggression sometimes. Carter Bryant's going to get better. Champagne's going to get better. Like all these guys who are just at the beginning or not even close to their primes yet. OKC is going to have to change some stuff if they want to compete with this team long term. And for anyone, like OKC, I think is frankly the only team that any of us can see doing it right now as currently constructed for the next half decade. There's some interesting other teams like what will Boston look like when they kind of reform? What will Utah look like if they hit on the second pick? Like there's other teams that are interesting, but OKC is clearly the one. If anyone's going to be able to mess with the San Antonio team, it'll be OKC. And they're going to have to bring in some shooters. Like they just don't have enough shooting to deal with this team long term because, yeah, Chet's just going to be nothing against this team. And that's unfortunate in a series when you're now down Mitchell and Williams because those are their second, third, and fourth best offensive players, probably. And they just all are either out or, might as well be out. Like Chet really is just like, the mental and physical ownership of we haven't seen anything like this in a while, where it's just like, Chet's really good. And like it goes under the radar because his averages aren't crazy and he's on OKC, who everybody hates, and SGA is very flashy, and Jalen Williams is flashy when he plays and all this. But like Chet's awesome. He made an All-NBA team for a reason, and he just is nothing against Wemby ever. And it's not just the series. It was regular season. It's been regular season. It's obviously all these games in the postseason. I thought he was fine in game 3 when he had like 14 points, but again, he made all NBA. Like you're looking for more than 14 points to be a good game for your all NBA player in the playoffs. So, Chet's it's going to be a problem for them if he doesn't get more comfortable kind of shooting a lightly contested threes. And, I don't know. I think that this is just I forgot what your original question was. I'm sorry, but this is just, this Chet Wemby thing. Yeah. That's what it was. It's just like, it's just complete ownership. And there's just nothing that's going to change about it. Chet has not seemed to do anything that makes me think that he's all of a sudden going to like realize some inner lion that he has to deal with this. Like, I just think this is what it's going to be for the next decade for OKC.
And then in the other series, you have New York and also as well Cleveland in that series, which is more defensive because this series, I think, according statistically, is all but over. Cleveland might get a game out of this, but I don't think I see much more than that. I said after watching game 1 and that 22-point disaster, as far as the 22 points that they gave up, as far as having a 22-point lead in the fourth quarter with almost 8.5 minutes left, and then proceeding to let it go. I thought it was the worst coaching job I've ever seen in the playoffs by Kenny Atkinson. I don't think anybody can really argue with me as far as on that, because why would you let James Harden out on that island there? I don't care if he's a Hall of Famer. I don't care if he's a former MVP. I don't care what he has done and through his entire career. If you keep on getting roasted like he was getting roasted by both Jalen Brunson and Landry Shamet, you've got to sit him down. It's just that simple. You sit him down for 2 or 3 possessions, you win that game. It's just as simple as that. You put a halfway decent defender on the perimeter for 2 or 3 possessions, you win that game. But they went back and forth on him. I think close to 15 straight possessions is what they did, and it seemingly just was not going to stop. And Kenny Atkinson was doing nothing but leaving him hanging out there to dry. And it just seemingly just was really, really a bad look. And again, James Harden, you know, you guys wanted James Harden in Cleveland. Well, you got him. This is what you're going to get. But it just scares me when I hear the talk about Austin Reeves and how much he's going to get, blah, 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 30, 40, 48, whatever he's going to get from the Los Angeles Lakers to be retained. When you have a backcourt that is so reliant and so defensively deficient as a backcourt as Mitchell and Harden, this is what you run into. You run into a playoffs where a coach is scheming against you, and Mitchell and Harden throughout this series have been abysmal on the defensive end, and it's cost Cleveland dearly as far as this 3-0 lead.
Yeah, I mean, this was going in. This is clearly when watching. This is clearly it reflected in the 3-0 lead in the series. This is the less interesting of these two series. Like, New York has just been the class of the East for the whole playoffs, and I mean, that game one, yeah, I mean, that's about as bad as it's going to get coaching wise. Like, it's just they're saying Brunson or whoever has the ball saying switch me on to Harden every time, and they're just going at him. And then Kenny Atkinson after has, he's like, well, James is actually a good isolation to like, why are we doing this? Like, we all know who James Harden is. Okay. He's one of the best offensive players we've ever seen. He's also in the twilight of his career. He does not have the burst and ability to get around people he used to do. So he's really even more reliant on that step back, mid-range step back three than he ever has been. And you trade, and I mean, we'll see in the long run how that works out. If that was as much of a we need to get off this fourth huge salary as much as it was to get James Harden. I think it was both, but I mean, we'll see how that turns out in the long run. But I mean, you gave up a good young player to get this guy to come in, and this series is just it's just not even interesting. Like, it's just like Cleveland is just outclassed. They're not as good. They have these, like you said, two defensively weak guards who have to play a lot of minutes, and they just don't really have the insulation defense to deal with what's going to happen to these guys when they play elite guards. And should they have won against New York, which is now obviously not happening, but and Brunson's amazing, but like, you're going to have this against, like, because what really kills their guards to me is when these guys want to get inside. Like, they just don't stay in front of guys when they want to get to the paint. And then you're relying on Evan Mobley, who's a little chetty in his own way, where he's just a little underwhelming. And, you always want a little bit more from him, which maybe is just this archetype of player in the Wemby era. But you're just really forcing everything at them. And Brunson's great. But I mean, if you would have played an SGA or a Harper or Fox, who are the two of those three are worse than Brunson, obviously, but they get inside a little bit more, in my opinion, watching, especially Harper. Like, when Harper wants to get to the rim, he just bulls guys over, gets where he wants to go already. And so this just isn't a team that I think makes sense in a playoff format, frankly. And it's impressive. And we say that, and they made the conference finals. Like, they clearly make enough sense to get that far. But with how expensive this team is, the most expensive in the league, that's clearly not the goal for them. Like, they want to win the championship. And I don't think this is a squad that can win the championship. I just don't. And I don't know if that means work out some sign and trade with the Lakers. I think Jared Allen for LeBron just makes a lot of sense for both teams. There's been no rumors about that. That's just kind of in my head what that just makes a lot of sense to me. Jared Allen, like the prototypical rim run big, perfect for Luka Doncic. LeBron James retire in Cleveland. He makes more sense for that team than having these two bigs who just never have played. They just don't play well together. And it's a tough one because the league is getting bigger, but also you can't play big against San Antonio. But also, on average, I think teams want to have these two big looks now. We're seeing, like, Chet is back to just being like a power forward, and Evan Mobley is a power forward. Like, we're seeing all these teams kind of go back, which I think was really started by Minnesota. When they just kind of brought in Gobert and said, Cat, you're a power forward now. That's what you're going to be.
And then in New York, when they put Robinson and Cat together several times during the playoffs last season.
Yeah, so Cleveland's just kind of in this weird spot where they're doing what everyone else is doing in terms of their bigs, but they just don't make much sense together to me because Mobley just is never going to be a willing enough shooter to make that a thing that pays off. Like you look at all those other ones, like Chet is not the shooter, but like he's a good shooter, but he's not the volume shooter you'd want. But you also have the weird dynamic there where Hartenstein is a great passer and they can run actions off each other. And then Karl Towns is Karl Towns from shooting. Mobley and Allen, neither one are phenomenal passers, and Mobley is a kind of he's a worse shooter than Holmgren, but in the same mold. Like he can shoot, but it's just not really what he wants to do. And so I just don't think these bigs make sense together, and I don't think these guards make sense together. And when your 4 players are 2 bigs and 2 guards, and you're really small and really relying on Max Strus on the wing, this just isn't a formula that makes sense. It didn't ever really make sense. I get it in terms of like just bringing talent, and individually, I like all these players, right? Like Harden's past what he is, but I still think Harden's clearly a good player. You just have to know what he is. Like, yeah, Kenny, don't leave him on an island against Jalen Brunson. Like, no one in the league can guard Jalen Brunson on an ISO, not to mention James Harden. Like that's
Well,
not.
I will give Mike Brown credit though when Jalen Brunson is left on an island because he is just as bad as those other 2.
Yeah,
They have a Josh Hart or Mikal Bridges or someone eventually getting
yeah,
you don't see him repeatedly being burned in the way that the other 2 are being burned on the other side in Cleveland.
yeah. That's the difference. Is like I said, Cleveland doesn't have those insulation defenders to help. Where it's like, well, okay, switch on to Donovan Mitchell or Max Strus, and then in New York, it's like, oh, switch on to Mikal Bridges, switch on to Josh Hart, switch on to OG Anunoby, switch on to even. I mean, whoever else. Like those are their big 3, but they have other capable defenders on that team. Like it's just a way better version of what Cleveland wants to do, and it's a way bigger version where they have these instead of these 2 small guards because Harden isn't like he's 6'4", like it's not like he's tiny, but he's at a stage in his career where he might as well be, right? Like he's just not vertically going to be able to be very big anymore. And I mean Mitchell's like 6'2", like he's just not very big, and so you have these 2 small guards and then these 2 bigs who are supposed to be defensive, but what Mobley does best is when he can be in the paint and be an elite rim protector. And with Allen, he just can't. Like you can't have 2 guys in the paint like this, especially against this Knicks team where they have all these shooters. Like someone has to be out on the shooter. You can only kind of have one roamer off Josh Hart, and we've seen what Josh Hart can make teams pay when you do that. So it's just not a team that makes sense. It's a team that especially has ended up not making sense against these Knicks. Like it just is not a good matchup. And then on top of that, when you have the James Harden playoff baggage on top of the Cleveland playoff baggage, on top of this seemingly obvious next step where I think Atkinson is probably going to get fired. Like that kind of seems like what the vibe is. Because I'm a Browns fan, I see a lot of what gets reported in Cleveland, and it just doesn't. I just don't feel like Atkinson's likely to be back there next year. On top of other changes, assuming the sweep is done tonight, which I don't know any reason it wouldn't be. Yeah, I mean, this just isn't a team that makes sense against the Knicks, and we'll see how different they are next year. But for a team that goes to the conference finals, I wouldn't be surprised if they're a pretty different version of what we see, because even like their bench guards who they have under contract, like they don't play Keon Ellis, but you'd assume bringing him in via trade, they'd maybe want to keep him around. And then like Schroeder's a small guard and Ellis is a small guard and Mitchell's a small guard and Harden's a small guard. Like they just don't have any really positional versatility on this team. Like it's guards and bigs, and they have no one who can kind of fill in the rest of that other than a Strus or a Dean Wade. And they're really relying on Dean Wade for a team that wants to be in the finals. Like it's just, this isn't, so I don't know what we're going to see. A lot of differences in Cleveland, I imagine. And I just think that this series is just not as interesting to talk about. There's not really anything for Cleveland to do. There's not anything that's been like weird or like this just kind of feels like how it should be going.
It's so funny because with all the money that they spend, and like you said, they are the most expensive team in the NBA or will become that next season if they stand pat. They still put Dean Wade out there as your starting small forward, quote unquote. And that still, again, surprises me each and every time out because he's just a role player. He epitomizes role player when you look at him and when you see him play, and he's just done nothing that pops out on the screen that will help Cleveland get over the hump in this case. And I think that again, what like you're talking about with Kenny Atkinson, I think that 22-point lead that he gave up in game 1 sealed his fate. And just the fact that they are continuing on with this porous defense in the perimeter and doing nothing about it, or almost nothing about it. It's just proof itself that, again, when you have to have some semblance of a defensive mindset, if you're there, and it scares me every day when we talk about Austin Reeves. Oh, we got to sign Austin Reeves. Oh, the beloved cap hold of $21 million. You get to go ahead and you've got to re-sign Reeves, blah 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 blah. Okay, well, if you sign Reeves and he signs for 40, 45, $48 million, then okay, you have that beloved cap space that you've gone ahead and saved for this season. But what about the next season, and the next season, and the next season beyond that? You're stuck with a backcourt duo that better score at an elite level all the time, because they're going to give up an elite level of points almost all the time as well. And that really concerns me, especially in the playoffs, because we've seen Austin Reeves, even in this playoffs with Oklahoma City, not fare so well on that end of the ball. So again, it concerns me because I see the example right there being shown to Lakers fans on an every game basis in the Eastern Conference Finals with Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, I think I couldn't have said it any better. Like, we see these teams that are great right now, and it's OKC and it's San Antonio, specifically at the top of the league, I think, for everybody, for now and the future. And it's just these teams that have these awesome defensive shells where no matter what, even if you have a game where you can't, even if you have a game yesterday like OKC where you can't make a shot, like, they're within 15 to 20 for the whole game, which isn't close. But like, I think if that's Cleveland in a situation where they shoot like OKC did yesterday, I think they probably lose by like 50 because they just can't guard anyone. And Mobley's awesome. Like, he won Defensive Player of the Year last year. But other than that, Allen's okay. And then you're like, yeah, Dean Wade, if we play Boston and you have, like, that's who's guarding Jason Tatum is Dean Wade, like, that series is over just off that. Like, he's going to get whatever he wants. And so, yeah, I mean, for as expensive as they are, and that's honestly, like, even if they do bring in LeBron somehow into this, which I just think has to be mentioned because the story, it's going to sell a bunch of tickets there, jerseys, whatever. Why would you not do it if you're Cleveland? He's not going to make the team worse. And something has to change big, and you're going to be able to sell whoever you want on. Well, we're bringing in LeBron. You don't get much bigger than bringing in LeBron. So I think that this roster has to change, and they traded for James Harden. I'm assuming under the veil of they are going to do some type of extension with him. We've seen that's kind of what James Harden does when he feels like he's not going to get an extension one place. He says, well, trade me to this place, and they have something worked out. So it'll probably be a decline in the team option and re-sign for multiple years at a lower number.
Which would be very stupid on Cleveland's part.
It would be, but I think is probably what's going to happen, and they probably feel like they kind of have to because the agent relationship and all the stupid stuff that plays into it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you're Cleveland, like, this is your team, and this is the positives and negatives of these apron eras is, like, you can't really get out of this. Like, this is just kind of what you've got. Like, you can trade Mitchell, I guess. And then what? Like, you've kind of traded some of your picks. You don't have a lot of young assets. Mobley is like their star young player, and he's great. And I think that if he was available, they'd fetch a ton in return for him. Bigs like him are in constant demand. But I mean, he's just not going to be your best player, right? Like, I think that's pretty clear at this point. And so, unless you want to go rebuild, which they just kind of can't, they're too financially committed, they're too picks committed, they just are not in a spot to do that. I just think that you have to kind of find some way to slightly restructure, and they've done a good job of that. Like, last year at the deadline, they tried to kind of fix this issue by trading for DeAndre Hunter, who just ended up being a massive bust for them. That deal, I mean, it's clear in who they've brought in. They recognize this weakness that they have, right? And they just kind of have struck out trying to fill it. So we'll see. I don't know why you trade anything for Keon Ellis just to not play him, because it was clear that the Schroeder thing was just they're dumping the salary and they got Schroeder, and Schroeder's been way more important for them than Keon Ellis. So I don't know what the deal is with that, because you just need anyone who can play defense. And at a minimum, maybe he's not going to make any shots or whatever, but he can play defense. And I don't know why he's not worth a look. But this is just a team, I think, that if you look at their rotation, they have like two good defensive players in the rotation, and that is like accounting for a half of Jared Allen and like a half of Dean Wade. So Mobley's awesome. Mobley's a defensive player of the year level player. Other than that, it's Mitchell, Harden, Mobley, or Mitchell, Harden, Merrill, Jordan Tyson, Schroeder. Like, I mean, see, like, it's just all these guys here just like, oh, well, if they're on an island with any good player, it's over. Like, they're just not stopping them. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be an interesting summer of change for Cleveland, I imagine. And I just don't know what the moves are. I think it's hard to predict because when you're this aproned like they are, it's hard to kind of point to the obvious move other than I imagine they're firing their coach.
And let's say our remembrances of Kenny Atkinson, who also said on an off day that the Cavs are analytically beating the Knicks. So that's great. Those are the type of phrases and those are the type of quotes that will get you fired. Yeah, we're analytically beating the Knicks. The Lakers analytically are beating the OKC Thunder in their minds in the last round as well. So I'm sure the Wizards, who we're going to talk about here in a sec, are analytically beating everyone as far as is concerned. So that's great. Absolutely, analytically, you're great. Absolutely, I know analysts are all the rage. In fact, the Lakers just hired an assistant general manager, which is hilarious that they haven't had anyone working under Rob now for years. So, be that as it may, and he's a rocket scientist, as he's what he's thought of in the industry. So that's great. Can't wait for that. But be that as it may, it is of course the Eastern and Western Conference Finals, and we'll keep on making sure we got it covered for you. But Eastern Conference Finals come up later today as we're recording this, so we'll see what happens there. But before we head on out, my friend, wanted to go ahead and hit up as far as teams that we will look at as far as the off season. I thought we'd go with one good and one not so good for as long as that lasts. It probably won't last too long because we're going to get into the not so good more at this point. But with the good, we thought we'd go with who did I say? I said the Lizards for the bad, and I believe I said the Detroit Pistons, I think, for the good. So with that said and done, let's start with the good and the Detroit Pistons coming off of a 50-win season. People forget that for a 2-week period of time, they had the best record in the NBA. People forget that. This is a team that's heavily reliant on one Cade Cunningham. And in doing so, they made their own bed and then they lied into it in the playoffs. And I'm sure the front office is breathing a sigh of relief that third team all NBA player Jalen Duren laid an egg in the playoffs as a whole, costing him tens of millions of dollars at the very least. Despite the fact he could be eligible for an even bigger bonus, hitting that third team all NBA status, which we'll discuss at the very end because I want to hear your thoughts on that voting process. But your thoughts on your thoughts on Detroit and where they go from here, because again, you have to build a team with another high level scorer than Cade Cunningham. This team is in desperate need of someone that's able to go ahead and carry the load alongside him, because this team looks like it will only go so far if that's not the case.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Detroit's like whole roster is kind of what a lot of my concerns with this injured version of OKC are against San Antonio, right? Like it's Cade, and Cade's amazing, but he is only one man, and they just have no help around him offensively. Like, it's like, all right, Karis LeVert, go out and see what you can do, or Duncan Robinson's our third most important offensive player, or just things that are not going to be suitable for a team that I think could easily make a finals run one of these years. And so there's going to be options. There's always people available in the summer. You just hope that it's maybe more in the vein of a Trey Murphy type than a Zach LaVine type. I'm sure both those guys are going to be people they discuss internally there, just because it's clear, like, you just have a lot of guys, like too many of your key players. Just, it's not that they're below average offensive players. It's like Asar Thompson is like an A+ defensive player and a F- offensive player. Like, he just can't do anything. Jalen Duren, when the easy buckets pick and roll are shut off for him against good bigs in the playoffs, as we saw, there's just he just can't do a ton for you. So I think that we'll probably see a pretty big move, if not multiple big moves from Detroit this summer. Like they've got too many holes and too high of a ceiling to not do anything. And so I think there's a lot to be, and they have all their picks. They have a lot to be done, and yeah, I mean it's gonna be interesting for them. But I think the move is clear. Like it's not complicated. It's not anything. You have all these defensive specialists on tradable contracts that you can kind of bring together to maybe trade for. I mean, I think Trey Murphy would be the great scenario for this, right? Because he's a good offensive player who's on a good contract. Maybe he's not like a second true superstar, but I just don't think it's probably particularly realistic that they're going to get that guy, because we can say they shouldn't keep Jalen Duren, they shouldn't pay Jalen Duren, whatever. Jalen Duren's probably just going to get near his max. Like it's just kind of how the NBA works. So I think that now's your time to maybe go get that secondary scorer. And other than that, like you're just going to be I mean, that guy was supposed to be Jaden Ivey, right? Like that's why they drafted him. And then it just didn't work out for a variety of reasons. So it'll be fun Detroit, I think, is going to be one of the more interesting teams, because a lot of these good teams at the top, San Antonio, OKC, Boston, New York, whoever else you want to point at, I guess Cleveland would be in there. Like you just don't, there's not really moves for them to make, right? Like Cleveland, I think, is the most potentially different of those teams, because who knows if they do get into the LeBron business or whatever. But all these other teams who I think are really good championship contenders, which is where I put Detroit, I just don't think they have the movability that Detroit does. So we'll see what they do, but I imagine it's going to be something pretty big and important.
And then on the other extreme is the team that has the number one draft choice. So things are looking up. They also have Anthony Davis and also as well Trey Young and a myriad of young players, and that is the Washington Wizards. And with the Wizards' future, I guess trying to look on the up and up. I think that the first question that comes out is, will they stick to the number one pick of AJ Debinsa? Because again, if you're Utah, right below, and I spoke to this about with Matt John, the lure and temptation of getting a homegrown product is there. But with that, there's also some concerns as well, as far as, do you miss out on the best player in the draft? So your thoughts on the future of what's going on with the Washington Wizards. I still don't see a 40-win team from them next season unless AJ Debonta is really, really good right away. I still see a myriad of games missed from Trey Young and Anthony Davis, and I still see a lot of pain going forward for Washington.
I speak for yourself, honestly. I think that I'm pretty high on Debinsa if that's who they do end up sticking and picking there. We'll see. I don't think we've heard the last of this. Maybe Utah moves up to 1 and they move down to 2 and draft Peterson. I just don't think that makes a lot of sense to me. Not that I do it per se, but I think that there's probably going to be a lot of discussions had there. If they keep this team as a whole, and Anthony Davis clearly wants traded, right? But honestly, like, okay, man, like who are you going to get traded to? Like, I don't imagine your trade value is going to be any higher after you didn't play a game for the Wizards, when the whole concern was you can't play games for whatever team's going to get you. So there's rumors that Portland sniffed around him. We'll see. Maybe they'd want to get back into that again with Dame healthy and some playoffs under their belt. I don't know that the destinations for Anthony Davis just aren't there. I don't think so. I mean, get better, extend your lease on your condo there, Anthony, because I don't feel like no one wants you. Like, that's why you're on the Wizards in the first place. And if that's how, I think Trey Young is on this weird pendulum where it's like, is he like a savior of a franchise like he was in 2021 after their playoff run, or is he like actually not good like a lot of people are saying now? It's somewhere in the middle, where I think he's an above average starting point guard who's going to make too much money and be really bad at defense, but there's also not very many guys in the league who can get you like 27 and 10, which he can do. So, and I mean, again, I'm pretty high on Debinsa. I'm pretty high on Keyshawn George. I'm pretty high on Sarr. I think they finally have something positive to be excited about there. And the East just isn't particularly deep. We'll see even more changes. Now the Bucks are going to be out the window, assuming Giannis gets traded. I think that this is a team that I would put them around 40, 41 games, because I just think tanking isn't going to be that bad next year. because
Oh,
of
I didn't say, I'd say 30, 35 wins for them. I just don't see, you've got to
yeah,
show
yeah.
me Anthony Davis is going to play 65 games. You got to
Yeah,
show me
no,
that.
for sure. I'm just saying that in a whole, why would they lose games? Because in
No,
like
they
their
won't try to lose games. They will still lose games though. They
yeah,
just
see, I
don't
just
have
don't
enough
know.
talent.
I don't know if I agree to the degree that you're on. I think that Anthony Davis is going to miss a lot of games. I'm sure they're probably going to be pretty ready for that and probably pretty willing for that because spoiler alert to anyone who thinks that the Wizards want Anthony Davis's number in the rafters there, they probably just want to rehabilitate his value and trade him somewhere else. Like I don't think they probably really want him there forever, right? They have their
Yeah.
guy like that with Sar. So just the young core of Trae Young, who's kind of like your leader, older vet guy, who I think is, again, good. He's probably gotten a little overhated on the spectrum. Trey Johnson showed some flashes. Keyshawn George is good. Sar's good. You obviously have to hit on the number one pick, but it's pretty hard to imagine someone not hitting in some right on the number one pick in this draft. And then you got some other, you got like, who knows with Koulibaly, he's something. I think Bub Carrington probably isn't, but like they have interesting young pieces that I think I'd be excited about. And again, I just think it's more the dearth of the East where like you look at it and Charlotte will be better and Boston will be around the same because they still won a lot of games this year. Even though they'll be a better team, their win total probably won't be dramatically different. Other than that, it's like the Knicks. We'll see what like who knows what the Cavs are going to do. The Cavs could go for it again. The Cavs could maybe try and slowly move in a different direction. Neither one would really surprise me because they're starting to get their picks back here from the Mitchell trade. So I don't know. I think that the East in that play-in race from 37 to 45 games is probably just going to be a pretty open race because who Chicago's always been in there. I mean, I guess if Miami gets Giannis, then they'll be better. But I don't know what the point of that for everybody is, even though they're, I think, the kind of the perceived favorite right now for some reason. If Miami doesn't do anything, I don't know why this team couldn't be better than Miami. Like Miami's team isn't good. They have Bam, who's awesome, but then Hero is fine and a worse version of Trae Young, really, in a lot of ways. And that's about it. And other than like, you can look at guys like, well, Ware's good, but Ware and Bam aren't good together. They tried over and over again this year and they just don't play well together. And those are kind of your two best players, probably. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting for Washington, but I just am pretty high on DeBansta. I think he's probably going to walk in and be a 20-point per game scorer. And if that's the case, I don't see why this team couldn't win around 42, 40 games personally. We'll see.
I'm saying 32 to 35 personally.
Fair enough. They're the Wizards. They could very easily win like 29 and it wouldn't be that shocking either. But I just, I'm high on their talent and it's kind of where I was with Utah this year. And I think if Utah would have actually tried, they probably could have won about 37-ish games in a way harder conference than the Wizards are going to be in next year. So, I don't know, interesting team. And that's the first time we can say that about Washington in at least 10 years, that they're an interesting team. So they're in a better spot than they've been in. Obviously, they finally win a lottery, land the number one overall pick, first time since 2010. And they're going to be, I think, at least borderline like fun to watch. And that's, again, like we're just looking for small improvements in Washington. Like you can't, expect a contender to build overnight there. So I think they're making the right steps. I think this leadership seems to be moving in the right direction. And we'll see how long Anthony Davis is there. Anthony Davis could be motivated to play next season because he doesn't want to sign an extension there. And then he actually wants to play and all that. And maybe he gets out of there at the deadline, but he has some actual motivation and incentive to play for the first time in a while, really. Because in Dallas, he could have been Hakeem. It wouldn't have mattered. Like they're still going to hate him because he got traded for Luka Doncic. So, yeah, I mean, I think they're a fun team that if everyone plays a reasonable amount of games, because Anthony Davis isn't playing 70 games in a season, right? Like it's just not very realistic. But if he can play 55 to 60 games, I think this team could win 40 games for sure, personally.
Fair enough. So there's a look at two of the teams in the NBA that are looking to see if they can rebuild and see what they can do to go forward. We'll take a look at two other teams next time, indeed. But before we head on out, I wanted to go ahead and hit Calif with us as far as the All NBA team voting results, which are always very interesting. It's not necessarily the All NBA teams that are interesting; it's who voted where. And when you take a look at it with Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Nikola Jokic, Victor Wembanyama, Luka Doncic, Cade Cunningham as the first team, Jaylen Brown, Kawhi, Donovan Mitchell, Kevin Durant, Jalen Brunson's second team, Maxey, Jamal Murray, Johnson, Jalen Duren, and Chet Holmgren as the third team. Okay, I might have issue with Jalen Duren, maybe to a smaller extent, Chet Holmgren. You obviously advocated for him quite strongly, so I will acquiesce to you on that. The one person who voted Victor Wembanyama to second team, I think needs to have their vote revoked.
I agree.
Uh, I mean, I could argue all day about the 9 people who voted Luka onto the second team, but okay, that's notwithstanding as well. But Victor to the second team, that's just criminal. I do want to say Denny Advia not making the third All NBA team. I thought was disappointing. But why in the hell does LaMelo Ball get 5 third team place votes? I do not understand what world we live in where he gets 5 All NBA third team votes. Just I don't understand it. I just don't, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Yes, Charlotte did play better, but he had a worse season statistically by far than the previous season than he had when they were worse teams. So you tell me. I just don't. I'm trying to wrap my head around that one most of all. 5 people just maybe they were all Charlotte based as far as those voters are concerned, but yeah, that's the one I really can't get my head around.
Yeah, I mean, I'm far from LaMelo's biggest fan, to be fair, but I mean, I don't even think he was the best. Like, I'm pretty in the camp that Concanipple is actually their best player last season. That's kind of my opinion. So, I don't know. I mean, he's the big name. He's fun. Everyone kind of likes the story, and that's what a lot of these end up being. Right, is somewhat narrative based. Like, that's why Chet makes it. Like, I don't think anyone probably really thinks that Chet's one of the 15 best players in the league or that Duren's one of the 15 best players in the league, but they're on these super good teams. And how are these teams with 60 plus wins only going to have one player and all this and all that, all these things that people vote based off of instead of just the performance of the players. But yeah, I mean, that one's weird. I don't have the actual like individual votes in front of me, but just in terms of the only ones that, I mean, I thought first team, I thought really all 5 of them were pretty easy. I mean, there was the Jaylen Brown case. I have a sneeze coming. Sorry. There's the Jaylen Brown.
And he just missed it.
Yeah, there's the Jaylen Brown versus Cade case, but I just would have erred on the side of Cade. I think he had more on his plate, and I think that he was on a better team, and that's what I think those comes down to me. And I just think he's better when you watch. Like, who do you think's better when you watch the players? Should come into this at some point, and obviously that's super subjective. Like, some people think Luka's better than SGA, some people think SG, right? Like, all these are it's all completely subjective. But for that one, I don't think very many would really give you that. I think Jaylen Brown's just better than Cade. Like, I just don't think that's an opinion that very many would have. So I think first team ended up how it should have been. I don't think that with the seed, and now they were the 5 seed in the West, so that's not terrible, obviously. But with the season that Kevin Durant had, all of it has to be taken into consideration. And that team cratered after he had a weird burner thing at the deadline or at the All-Star break. Like, that's just what happened. And so, for someone like Maxey was terrific this season, high minutes, a team that was injured all season. The second best player for most of their games was a rookie who plays a similar position to him. I think he should have been second team if he's going to be eligible. I know that was one of those that was really close up in the air or whatever. Those are the only ones that I really have a super big problem with. I think that the Duren and Chets of the world, like, those guys are just always going to make All NBA. And I don't think anyone, again, thinks they're the 2 of the 15 best players. But it also, the playoffs have hurt both of them. And really the last 3-4 games have hurt Chet, because up to that, he had been really good in the playoffs. But just seeing him be completely owned by Wembanyama there's not great timing for him for this to come out. Duren's playoffs were just a disaster in general, but it's not a playoffs award. It's a regular season award. And I think both of them were deserving based off their regular seasons of being on this list. I don't have as big a problem with Avdia. He started off super great and then kind of tailed off because he hurt his back and just played through it some, and which wasn't the same the second half of the season. So I think in general, the 15 guys who made it are probably the right 15. You can always pick and choose maybe this guy over that guy, but in general, I think if it's 15 of the 18 best got whatever on your list. I think they did pretty good. And this year, there was no one on any teams that I thought was like, how are you on second? He's on third, how whatever. I think all that was about where it should have been. And the individual votes are always interesting. I mean, the biggest example of this is when Derrick Rose got like an MVP vote that one year when he was like playing 18 minutes a game on New York or Minnesota or something. So the individual votes, I mean, I really think that they should be analyzed. Like, yeah, like if you have such an outlier result where you're the one of 100 who didn't have Wembanyama on first team, it's like we probably need to analyze who that person's voting, why they're voting that way, whatever. And so they won't, that guy or girl or whoever will have their vote next year. But I mean, I just watch basketball. He's already in this series. I mean, I think I'll never forget from the Thunder perspective the month that I thought Shea was the best player, because it's now gone again. Like, I just think it's Wemby's league and we're all living in it for the next decade. So, yeah, but I mean, I thought they were fine. There's nothing on there that I thought was overly obscene. Same thing with the all defense team. Some people were really mad that Scotty Barnes wasn't first team as opposed to second team. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, he made all defense. Like, I don't know who's going to be that upset about that, but, yeah, those are my opinions.
Well, there you have it. If you have any thoughts, please let me know in the comments below in regards to the all NBA team voting, or the playoffs, or the Washington Wizards, or the Detroit Pistons as well. But before we head on out, Calif, want to hear your thoughts on what you're working on. Anything going on, the New Century Press or the Suave report that we need to know about before we head on out?
Oh man, I don't know. When the Thunder lose or win, whatever, however the Thunder season ends, after that, I'm going to start trying to do a weekly, like, one draft prospect that fit an analysis type deal, because I really like the draft. I thought my latest piece where I kind of broke down a lot of guys, I really liked how that turned out for me. So I'll probably do that whenever the Thunder bow out, whether that's bow out into a parade or bow out in game 6 in 4 days to the Spurs. Like, who knows which one it'll be. But so that's probably the next thing to look at for me. Just been super crazy busy. I hated not being able to come on last week, but just kind of how the schedule broke, just couldn't make it work. And so, yeah, I mean, just keep an eye out for draft stuff when that gets a little bit closer. But until then, I don't know. I mean, always keep if something crazy happens, if SGA has some all-time game or something like that, then maybe I'll do something quick on that. But unless something really outlandish happens, I don't think I'll write anything on this series. But then when draft stuff starts kicking into gear, I'll be writing on that for sure.
Sounds good. It is Calif Poncy. Please go ahead and check him out today at the New Century Press and the Suave Report as well. Well, Calif, always providing those great NBA observations. I truly appreciate you stopping by. Yes, we missed you last week, but glad to have you back. Looking forward to seeing what will happen with the NBA playoffs, whether, like you said, OKC lasts another 4 days, or if they go on and move on to the next round. So then let me go ahead and make sure and let you know that if you can, please like and subscribe. Go ahead and make sure you go ahead and hit me up right there for you, right there on the NBA observations on the Lakers Fast Break as well. Calif, great to have you back. Looking forward to our chat next week as we continue to provide the best in NBA observations.